And that's it. Another season in England has finished. And it's been, I think, one we'll look back on in a year's time, a few years' time as a historic season. We've had a team, a noisy neighbours, they were called, possibly on course for a treble. Joy back on Tyneside. Possibly the best team to ever go down. And probably one of the most surprising teams in recent years to go up. Welcome to the Streets Won't Forget podcast. I'm Dodzi, your host, and today I'm joined by Louie and Keelan. And as you can see, I'm wearing a different jersey today. We were all there yesterday at Wembley Stadium supporting our local team, Luton Town, as they triumphed and beat Coventry on penalties to get promoted to the Premier League after what's been a hell of a journey. And that's where we're going to start with in this podcast because it's only right. I mean, I don't think stories like this come out very often. Just to give my take on it, as you would know if you watch this thing regularly, I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm not a Luton Town fan, but I am obviously from Luton, so there was a massive interest for me in this game. And whilst over the years I haven't been a home and away goer like a lot of people do, you've gone to loads of games home and away. Keelan, you yourself, you've gone to loads of games home and away. I was that was an incredible experience. Like that was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever felt that way. It was a really unique feeling I had for the game because like when the game finished, I was just like, damn man, like this is what it's like to have like a supporting your local team, and it's the thing I thought was so sick was just like the unity, man, and because for years, you know, you got to say Luton have been the brunt of jokes, both the football team, you can say even the town itself. And it's even something that me, myself, at times, it's probably been like, you know, yeah, I'm here, I live here, but like, I'm not a supporter. You kind of don't, you don't go over it too much. I mean, when people ask where you're from, Luton, I say like, yeah, I mean, there's not really much to do there because there isn't much to do there. I think that's what's so unique about the town. And, you know, it's not everyday teams like Luton go up. Normally, I mean, who won the playoffs last year? I don't even know. But
Forest. Nottingham Forest.
exactly, Forest, that's a team with two Champions Leagues. That's a team with, you know, arguably the greatest manager England's ever seen, what some people say. And Luton do have history as well. I think that's what's amazing about Luton. Obviously, the top I'm wearing today, 1988, actually beat Arsenal in the final. So, yeah, I think incredible, just so much about it. We're gonna get more into it in terms of what I found fascinating about the game. But Louis, I'll come to you first, to be fair. I think it's only right to come to you first because
Yeah, no, of course.
as I said,
Yeah.
you have been on the journey. I think that was what was going through my head yesterday. I was watching the game. I was thinking, I remember 2014 when Luton got promoted to League Two, yeah. And I was going through town that day and I was like, it's a big deal, bro. Luton are back in the football league. Like this is a big deal. And genuinely, if you ask me then, I thought it's probably as this is probably as good as it's gonna get, you know, because like all I know Luton for before was 30-point deduction, the 20-point deduction. So Louis, just
Mhm.
talk to me about everything, man. The game, the whole feeling about Luton going up. I mean, it's yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, my body's still tingling a little bit on obviously listening to your words as well and what you're saying. It's bringing back the experience and the memories that I have from yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, and like I can't imagine how my dad felt. Like he was there. I wasn't with him, but he was there as well. And he's obviously been following Luton for the best part of 45 years. So, you know, for him to experience that as well was crazy, man. Um, but yeah, obviously I've been there on most of the journey. I had a season ticket for 7 years, 8 years. I gave it up for well, just COVID really. Gave it up at the wrong time probably, but you know I still try and go um, here and there when I can when I can get tickets and when money's available stuff like that. But bro, like you know we don't have nice things in this town.
That's
You
what I
boys
mean,
know
man.
that
That's what I
we
mean.
don't have yeah, we don't have nice things, and obviously people talk about the stadium and whatever, and we've been a meme for. But you know what? That's us, man. That's us, and the people say it's like a weakness, but I think it's our greatest strength. And I think if we didn't have that vibe and we didn't have that sort of rustic, unique feel, I don't think we'd be where we are. And you know, everyone in the town chipped in yesterday. I've seen so many people there. Like I was bumping into a different man here, there, everywhere. It was like a party atmosphere all day. I think the game itself, the atmosphere wasn't as good as it could have been. It was very, very tense. But look, man, I understand people were. The sun was out all day. I had a migraine because I'd hardly slept for the past 3 days. But I think the same as most men in that stadium. It was hot. The second half was pretty crap as well. So that kind of killed people's momentum. And then yeah, the penalties were just I didn't watch it. I still haven't watched it. I think I'll give it a week and then I'll watch it again. Because bro, yeah, I cried like I never cry in it, but I cried like 5 times yesterday. I cried when the first goal went in, when we scored, and then when they scored, I didn't panic. I believed in us, man. And then yeah, I cried before the penalties. I cried during. I cried when the first one went in, and then I turned it. Do you know what? Yeah, I turned around for their pen that they missed because I had a feeling. I felt it. I was
Mm.
like, I said to my missus and I said to some of the boys as well. I turned around. I was like, this guy's missing this. And then yeah, it happened. And do you know what? I thought I miscalculated because I wasn't watching. I thought we had to score our one to win because I don't know, something went on my head, and then they missed, and I seen all the players sprinting, and it didn't kick in, and I was like, Ross,
Yeah.
we've actually won, and
Yeah.
I literally, I didn't celebrate, man. I just stood there and I cried, and then I sort of looked around and I took it all in, and I kept looking around all game, and I kept looking around and thinking, this ain't real, man,
Yeah.
because I'm expecting to go into next season and start off with like a Millwall away or like a QPR at home or like a Plymouth or something like that. I'm expecting that to happen next year. And just the thought of Man City or United or Arsenal or Chelsea or Tottenham or bro, whoever, man, Aston Villa. I know we've played them before, but all these huge teams, like realistically, when you look on paper, we have no right to be there. But I think the way the club's run, the way they've operated within their means, year after year, we probably could have spent more money than we did, but we haven't because the owners know what it's like. We almost people who aren't from Luton or haven't followed Luton will never understand. This club shouldn't exist. This club went to the conference. It was financial ruin. We had to sell everything we had, other than the stadium, which probably the council anyway. I don't know, but we lost everything we had. We had to start again. And yeah, there was talk of even before 2008 when we had the Folk introduction. There was talk in the late 90s of going to Milton Keynes, the early 2000s of going to Milton Keynes. This club should not exist, and now we're in the Premier League. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy that I've been able to experience this with a lot of good friends over the years. And yeah, man, like it's just it hasn't kicked in. I haven't had the chance to think about it.
I don't know. It's
And
it's
I don't think it will kick in until we play that first game.
I agree with that, to be fair. That's what I was thinking. Like I need to see it to believe it first, even me. And
Mm.
yeah, honestly, all those things you said, I echo and I felt similar, man. Like I mean, bro, I could have shed tears yesterday. Honestly, it was flipping. I agree. When I looked around, saw the amount of Luton fans. I was like, wow, I've never seen this many. I was like, flipping, no, this is Luton, bro. This is Luton all in like just a confined space. I can't really put words to it right now properly,
The
but
whole town was there, innit?
the whole town is there. It's like the whole town's in Wembley. It's like, wow, this is incredible, man. Um, Keelan, your thoughts on the whole thing, man? Because yeah, you, as I said, you've been probably a better Luton supporter than me over the years. So yeah, man, what the game, the whole experience, and just the whole journey. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, so like yeah, I've been going games like yeah, a few a season with my brother since sort of like yeah, like League Two days. And yeah, like I remember like when they got promoted from League Two, the main thing like, I was just gassed at them to be on FIFA. Like before those times, like yeah, man was going on FIFA, couldn't even do a Luton career mode, couldn't do nothing. Next year, Kenny should be on FIFA. That's crazy to
Crazy,
think of
bro.
some guy making coding the Kenny into the game, like putting these little houses on the outside for the sort of animation that sort of pans around the stadium. But yeah, no, literally like every season I've just been like, yeah, like this is what it is like. like yeah, literally just like you're getting promoted to League One. It's like, oh, okay, that was nice to get promoted. Then it's like the next enjoyment with Luton kind of comes from if we go down to League Two, then get promoted back up to like League One, and then obviously yeah, like League One, we're just there for a season, went straight up to the Championship. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Now it's just yeah, trying to stay up, in which yeah, they managed to do. I think like one of those ones when you look back on like COVID's done them very nicely, and I think if COVID didn't happen, there's quite a high chance Luton would have went down. But it just the way they came back after COVID, they're a completely different team, managed to stay up, and yeah, it just kept on improving. And yeah, like losing the manager halfway through the season and just everything. It's just the amount of like adversity they've had, and they've just sort of overcome it. And it's like like the fact that Pelly, he's gone from the like imagine telling him when he left West Ham in the Prem to go to the conference that he'd be playing against West Ham like in the same league like 9 years later. Yeah, no, it's just absolutely mental. And yeah, you can probably tell my voice is still a bit rough from yesterday. Like
Yeah, I'm nursing a
yeah,
hangover as well,
it was a
man.
hot day. Had that sun just shining on me like constantly. You're struggling to get drinks inside the stadium. Yeah, I literally felt like I was one of the players on the pitch playing for 2 hours or so because yeah, I felt knackered once a final penalty was missed, and yeah, I'm so glad they got the result. And yeah, I think yeah, the sort of money you see associated with it, it's like it's life changing amounts. Like it literally changes the trajectory of the club forever. And it's like yeah, I just got to shout out the owner because like I don't they just it's like they've got this mad like black book on how to run a football club because yeah, to take one club from yeah conference to Premier League, it's mad how they've just done everything right and they've not really thrown money at people. I think our record transfers like it's Morris is about 2 and a bit million, and it's like the fact
Yeah, 2 million.
that's yeah that must get smashed next year. It's like probably going to break that record for that fee with something like seven or eight times that. And yeah, no, I was just so happy for them to go off. Yeah, I think yeah, just being in the train is mad. I think it's hard the amount of like thoughts going through my head about all these different sort of possibilities. There's so many like firsts and just like it's such a like when like yeah with it sinking in, there's just so much unknown about it. And it's just yeah, like imagination sort of going wild. And yeah, I think in the game, I think obviously yeah, penalties. First time seeing a penalty shootout like live, it's tough for teams. It's like ideal world you have something else because penalties are cruel. And yeah, obviously commiserations to Coventry, but like
Mm.
yeah, like yeah, and obviously a VAR as well. That disallowed goal. Like, that's my first time really sort of
Mate,
witnessing VAR at a stadium. Yeah, you don't have a clue what's going on when you're there, do you? And you just
bro.
literally you're all celebrating, and you just hear Cov fans celebrating. You're like, what on earth's going on? You just look at the screen. It's like a goal disallowed, but yeah, like I think also yeah, very grateful that when we won that coin toss to get the kicks down our end. I think that's the most important coin toss I'll probably witness or actually acknowledge in my life. Like because
Yeah,
obviously yeah, they have it for every game, but like I'm not. It kind of just it gets to the penalty shootout and that they're at that end. I don't really think too much about it. You don't really notice the atmosphere when you watch it on TV. But yeah, so being at the game, obviously, I was right behind that goal, so
same.
I was gassed to have a perfect for that penalty shootout. And yeah, like really good penalties from all the players that took on, other than the sort of one that missed. But yeah, obviously yeah, they were training their penalties loads, but yeah, keepers didn't get near any of them, and I'm glad it was us on the better side of that shootout.
Yeah. Nah, I hear all of that. I just one thing I do want to add to all this, just to the context. I've been thinking about why this win's so special. I think, despite obviously what we've all said about Luton in general itself, there is a sort of thing with Luton Football Club where there is this sort of comeback attitude to things. It's like, okay, we can get the points deduction, but we'll be back. We can get Nathan Jones gone, but we'll be back. It doesn't matter. Mick Harford coming back. I even think literally first Luton memory, Luton playing versus Luton against Liverpool 2006. I'm sure we can all somewhat remember that game.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
like Luton a 3-1 up. Luton in the big games I've seen them play, I think they got smashed by Liverpool like once 5-0 one time. But I've never seen strangely enough, for a football club, as you said, Louis, that probably shouldn't exist, it never really sits on its ass, man. Like, and that's what I have to raise so much, you know. So yeah, just unbelievable. And as for the game itself, yeah, I agree. Tense and the atmosphere, I think it was just from the fans, you know. Like, I agree with you, Louis. I thought first off, Luton were way on top. Probably should have created
Yeah,
more.
we should have had one or two more, I think.
Yeah.
Should have 100%. And then Coventry scored. I wasn't worried, man. It was literally only until penalties I was worried. I was like, how's it got this far? Because every team I've had vested interest in has just not finished. Like, you can say Arsenal this season, you can say England at points, you can say Ghana at points, just not finish the job, right? And that was literally the first time I watched the game. It's like, finish the job. Unbelievable, man. But yeah, Louis, what are you saying for net? I mean, we don't want to go too deep into next season, of course. The nitty gritty of like you know, how they're gonna fare. But like, but what's your like, what do you kind of want to see over the summer, you know, in terms of
Yeah,
using?
yeah.
Well,
I
just
get
go.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one actually, but before I will go into that in
Yeah,
literally
go
10
on, man.
seconds. But what you said about whenever on our ass we always have adversity, we always come back from it. Bro, we had adversity in that game. We lost our captain and
Yeah.
for all accounts our best player this season. You know, our free award winning player of the year this year. We lost him in like the 10th, 15th minute. And when he went down and people were saying, "Oh, it's locks, it's locks, it's locks," I was like, shit, man.
Yeah.
It's locks. I was like, it could be anyone else on the pitch, but it's locks. It's our captain. And then Reece Burke came in, and I think he's great anyway. He just needs to keep himself fit, but he was sensational.
I agree with that.
And yeah, he was like he bossed it. And you know, Osho has had his problems this season. You know, beginning of the year got sent off against Watford. That is huge, and he's come back and he's then scored against them, and then scored in the semi-final. So yeah, man, these guys they don't know what being down is. They're down for 5 minutes and then they're back up again.
Yeah, even that game's an example of it. 4-0 loss earlier in the season, and you know, I would have never thought. Was Nathan Jones still manager at the time?
Nathan Jones was still manager at the time. Yeah, he was
You
manager.
know, who would have thought you lose the manager and you lose that game? You know, the biggest game. That's a massive game for obviously Luton fans. You don't think you're going to get much bigger games. You did yesterday. Yeah, so that's what I love that, man. The never say die attitude. Just
Got their manager as well.
Yeah, got their manager. It's
Come
crazy.
get your
It's
chain
crazy
back,
talking, man. Huh?
Come get your chain
Yeah,
back.
literally, come get your chain back. It's great, and I would have honestly, because a couple years ago, Watford were FA Cup finalists against City. Yeah, came eighth, had a pretty strong season, and I would have never thought Luton there'd be a position where Luton higher division than Watford, who've had loads of Premier League seasons, man. So
Yeah. The way the two clubs are run, it could not be more opposite if you tried. One club has a clear plan, is loyal to their players, loyal to their staff. We're a classy club. Them, no loyalty, no class, nothing. They don't know what they're doing. They'll hire a manager for 10 games and then sack him and then hire a completely different style of manager. They haven't got a clue. And do you know what? I know I've got a lot of family members and friends who are Watford fans, and they say the same thing. So that's not even me controversial saying that. I dislike them, but you know it's not the fans' fault. But yeah, the way the clubs are run is just completely chalk and cheese. And that actually segues nicely onto what I expect in the summer, and what I expect from next season. And obviously, the point I said that the clubs are running completely different ways. We're not going to go up, and we're not going to try and sacrifice the future of this football club to try and stay in the Premier League. We will go up. We will be on a shoestring budget. We will trust the lads that we've got already. We will bring in quality. I don't know if it will be quality to stay up, but we'll bring in quality where if we don't stay up, there'll be good enough players to compete at the top end of the Championship next season. We will recruit amazingly, like we always do. Mick Harford, obviously a legend of this football club. He is the head of recruitment, and he works in tandem with management and with other scouts and stuff like that. And he's got an eye for so many players. I mean, he spotted Elijah Adebayo, who we signed from Walsall. He spotted him And do you know what? Fun fact, actually, he was when he was in Fulham's academy, he was a centre back until he was 18 years old. That's when he first started playing striker. So yeah, he was a centre back in the academy, and now, yeah, I mean, these are the types of players we pick up, and we just somehow turn them into, players who are going to be Premier League quality now. Most of the team's castaways. I mean, Alfie Doughty was a spare part at Stoke. Amari Bell was a spare part at Blackburn. Gabe Osho hadn't even played. I think he played a couple of games for Reading when we got him. We're just so smart in the market. I think we'll make Nakamba permanent. I think we'll try and make Cody Drame permanent. I mean, Fabrizio was tweeting it the other day that what the hell, bro? Fabrizio's tweeting about Luton.
Yeah, I saw him tweeting Penny Ruddock. I was like, damn, man. Luton actually about, bro. Flip.
Yeah. So I think we'll try and get the. I don't know what I'd do with Horvath. I do think the club will try to sign him just because we've not really had any stability with goalkeepers since Mark Tyler left in 2015. So that's been the best part of 8 years. I think we've had about 15 keepers in that time, maybe even more, to be honest. So I do think they'll want the continuity with Horvath, and he's got a mistake in him, but he hasn't been too costly for us this season. And he obviously made a huge save in the semi-final. I wouldn't have kept him on for the pens yesterday because his pen record's not very good, but it didn't cost us in the end. So I think we'll try and get the 3 loan lads permanently, and then I think we'll probably add 3 or 4 more, maybe 3 starters. To be honest, I don't think we'll spend more than 20 million, which people who support bigger clubs and Premier League regular teams will be like, why have they come up and not spent that money? The thing is, we've got a stadium to build, and we've got the future of the club secured. And if people understood where the football club has come from in terms of almost not existing, like I mentioned earlier, to now being in the Premier League, the owners aren't going to get caught up in that and try and buy their way to remain in the league, because that 150 million we've got, and then the year's parachute payments if we go down, that will set the club up for the next 10, 15 years. So there's that. I think maybe a couple loan players, make the loan players we've already got permanent, and probably a couple free agents as well. Maybe someone like a Jeffrey Schlupp who's out of contract with Crystal Palace. Maybe someone like a Jack Stacey who's out of contract with Bournemouth, obviously ex-player of ours anyway. I think that's the type of business we'll do. It will be smart, shrewd business. It will be people will probably look at it and say it's not going to be enough to stay up, but it wouldn't surprise me if we stay up by 1 or 2 points by the skin of our teeth, just because we've won 7, 8 games at home and then scraped a couple of away results as well. And I've got a huge prediction. I think we're going to beat 1 or 2 of the big teams. If I was going to make a prediction, I would say we're going to beat United and we're going to beat Arsenal.
Yeah.
At home.
So Arsenal haven't won their 10 games that they've been there. A stat that's floating about. Yeah, I think they drew 4 and then lost 6 or something like that. But
I've seen that stat.
Yeah.
I can just.
But it's a proper intimidating stadium to go to for those players, just because of how close. There's no room around the pitch, and the linesmen barely have room to sort of run down the lines without sort of being in the stands. And it is a stadium where you can almost shout at the players on a personal level, and I think that was quite evident in the Sunderland game where they're properly going at it. And it's just I don't think those Man City guys are used to being the fans being so noticeable to them, and it's it probably isn't legal to some respects because the fans actually are on the pitch, but obviously as long as they've got that stadium, that's how it is. I do think that will be tough for some players to go to.
Yeah, I can see it, right? I can see United at Kenilworth Road. I can see a corner coming in, De Gea coming out flapping at it, and then Luton scoring 2 or 3 goals from set pieces and winning 2 or 3-0 against United. I can genuinely see it. And then Ten Hag just down a touchline like this.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can see it happening to Arsenal as well. I can see us just putting some corners on top of Ramsdale. He's not very strong from corners anyway, neither is De Gea. I can see it happening, man. Honestly, against one of the big teams at home, we're gonna probably a couple of them. We're gonna cause some problems. Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting.
It will be 100%, man. And yeah, I think the fairy tale like it's peaked. I think if you talk to any Luton fan, they'll tell you this is enough. But I think imagine Luton stay up in the Premier League next season. We're really talking one of the best stories you'll get in English football. I really hope that happens. Um, but yeah, we're gonna segue on now. Unless you've got any more thoughts on the Luton. I mean, we can speak about it all day. To be fair, honestly, like we're gonna go to the parade tomorrow. We'll probably even catch up there.
Yeah,
Open top bus parade in town. It should be good.
gonna be a fucking party, man. Carnival was today as well, man.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Luton's got a bit of a buzz at the moment, man. I've never.
Yeah, there's gonna be a couple man on 3-day benders. I'm telling you that now.
Yeah, literally. Bank holiday weekend as well. Like, couldn't have happened at a better time. But yeah. In terms of talking about staying up, right? We've obviously seen the Premier League final day today, and there wasn't really much to play for apart from the relegation battle. Which, even if I analyze that, it's you've got Everton staying up, and you've got pitch invasion. I don't really. I'm not an Everton fan, but I don't agree with that, man. Everton. I'm sure if I asked an Everton fan, they would probably tell me they're one of the top 5, 6 teams in the country in terms of size. I don't agree with that, but they'll tell me that. So for you lot to be having a pitch invasion, for staying up, like I can't lie, it wasn't even a dramatic staying up thing. You beat Bournemouth, who are already calm. You beat them 1-0. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that we're talking about clubs who run well, Luton, but clubs clearly there's something bad there, Everton. And then obviously as well, you've got Leicester. We said it on the pod the other day, possibly the best team to ever go down. Keith, what do you think about that statement in terms of Leicester going down and Everton just staying up? In terms of like how they're a mess of a season in terms of having Dyche, Lampard, players coming in and out of the squad. I don't know. For me, I think it's a mad underperforming season for Everton in terms of they signed decent players as well, like in internationals in Cody. But yeah, relegation battle really? Yeah, I guess that's the question. What do you make of teams that have gone down and the teams that have stayed up? Like,
Yeah, so yeah, I think pitch invasion is just a bit sort of extra for sort of going down. And the thing is, I think I'm not sure when they moved to their new stadium, so I'm not sure like that comes to it at all. Obviously, I know they're sort of moving quite soon, but I'm not sure if it's next season or the season after. But oh yeah, and then sort of with the Leicester team, yeah, I do think it is one of the best teams to go down. I think guys, obviously, yeah, they'll get less money for these players because they're in the championship. But I think if at the start of like last season they were to sell like Maddison, Barnes, Tillemans, yeah, like guys like Maddison, that's probably in today's market like an 80 million pound player. Like Barnes, probably like 40, 50 million pound player. Tillemans, away from his sort of contract issues, also probably like 40, 50 million. And I guess this kind of feeds on to the sort of point that one of the points I'm going to make later, but which I'll just briefly say now. But they're just the teams that kind of lack identity, and they are these teams that think they can kind of just sort of throw money at, like Everton especially, they think they can just kind of throw money at things, sack managers, hire managers, and then they've just got all these sort of players that accumulate from different areas. And yeah, I think just with like Everton, like obviously with how much they've spent, like, I do think they've got so many like questionable fees associated to them, like Iwobi is one of their best players, but like people like him for like 40 million, they just do spend a lot of money, and I think you're seeing teams like Brentford and Brighton go sort of quite high up in the leagues, and Brentford especially, they've just not really spent much. They've just got a strong identity, and you can sort of say that's the same with like Luton getting up from the Championship. They've just got a strong identity, and I think you can sort of resist that for so long. Like I see why you might think that's a bit boring when you just got like a load of robotic players just using their muscle memory to do all this stuff. But it is like the modern game. I think Everton do need to adapt for that soon, because I think this relegation problem is not going to go away anytime soon. Like Everton, they were the sort of team you used to say that like any sort of player that's just not quite good enough for top six, or he's maybe like a sub at top six, you'd say he should go Everton. And they were always sort of around those sort of Europa League places. Like they should be in those sort of Conference League places, which sort of West Ham and Villa are sort of getting at the moment. But yeah, I don't really know sort of how they turn it around. But it's just like I do feel for the fans, but then like what sort of message does it send when you're sort of invading the pitch? And then yeah, so with regards to Leicester again, yeah, just I feel like from the start of the season, you just sell your keeper and don't replace him. It was like almost like so foreseen, and I get they got like sort of financial issues, but like, I just can't help but feel that like just sell someone else and then don't sell your keeper, or like sell your keeper and sell someone else and buy a new keeper. It just like like if you have what a football team with one player on it, that's your goalkeeper, and it is the most important position on the pitch. You need someone there. But yeah, with regards to like the battle, I think Leeds. I think most people sort of had them to go down today. They're just kind of in a bit of a mess at the moment as well. I think Bielsa had a very tailor-made squad for them, and in the moment they sort of departed with him, it was just all a bit iffy. But so commiserations to all of them. But I think Southampton's the one that I think will be the strongest next year. But with regard, I think Leicester will lose like half their team. Leeds, not really so sure, but I think Southampton, funny enough, being the one that came last, I think they're in the best position for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely echo that last point. I don't like the phrase "it's quite good if they go down." It's never good if you go down. But I think, like with Burnley last year, Southampton have got enough young players. They've got enough, they've got sellable assets that they can reinvest in. They've got the likes of Ward-Prowse, Lavia, Walker-Peters who will probably go. That probably gets them 60, 70 million from sales alone. And then they can reinvest maybe 15, 20 million of that in the Championship and go up quite comfortably. Whereas I think Leicester and I think Leeds, they have players on high wages who they sign for high fees who are going to be very, very hard to ship if they want to make any sort of even half the money they spent on these guys back. So I think those two teams need to go up at first attempt, or it's going to be very, very difficult for them to do it in the next 2 or 3 years. I think with Everton, it was a monumental mismanagement to keep Lampard for that long. I think they're lucky they sacked him at the time and didn't hold on a couple more weeks, because I think if they had Sean Dyche the whole season, they end up in 13th or 14th rather than 17th. Because he plays very direct. I think that squad suits him quite well. They manage at Goodison Park, especially under Dyche, they've managed to do very, very well. They don't concede a lot of goals. They don't score a lot of goals, which doesn't help when their main striker's tearing his coochie every game. It's again, monumental mismanagement in terms of how the club's run. They are selling, so that's a positive thing for Everton, because they just have not got a clue. And it's the age-old thing. Like people say, they've spent money. Yeah, they've spent money, but they kept giving managers money, different managers. They went from Roberto Martinez to they ended up with Lampard somehow, and now they've ended up with Sean Dyche. Like, if you go from Roberto Martinez and you end up with Sean Dyche, that's two completely different managers. I know it was 6 years ago, but you went from Martinez to Koeman to Ancelotti to Duncan Ferguson to Sean Dyche. You could not name a more, like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then you've given all of their managers money, and now Dyche has come in, and you didn't give many money in January. You sold probably your best forward. I don't rate Anthony Gordon that much, but you sold your best forward, an Evertonian, and you just didn't even give Dyche anything to work with. So I mean, they're very, very fortunate they stayed up. Very, very fortunate, because obviously they've got that new stadium coming. They're in all sorts of FFP issues anyway, so they'd have had to have gone down and sold a few players and tried to rely on their academy, which is good. And I think in the Championship they'd be fine, because they'd probably be around sort of 3rd to 8th. I think Everton. They got very lucky. Southampton I think will be okay, but Leicester, I'm hearing they have to cut their budget that they currently spend by 50%, to even manage basically. So I think we'll see a fire sale. I think Tillemans is gone for free. I think Maddison's gone. I think Harvey Barnes is gone. I think even, someone could come in for Keelan Dewsbury Hall, he could be gone. And again, like what Keelan said, they just don't seem to have any identity. I find their approach very weird. Again, Brendan Rodgers, I think he should have gone a year earlier than he did. I understand their loyalty to him. He won an FA Cup. Great, like he had credit in the bank, but they dibble dabbled for too long. Dibble dabbled dilly daddy, sorry, for too long. And just sort of slept walked into the relegation zone. January was a hilarious window. They seen Harry Suter, they seen a 6'6" brother with a fat head and thought they were getting another Harry Maguire. It's just like they're I mean, Feist, whatever his name is, scored today. The David Luiz looking Don, but he's been laughable this season. That Christiansen they signed at right back is one of the worst footballers I've ever seen in the Premier League. They stuck with Danny Ward for so long in goal. Again, the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen in the Premier League. Maybe other than Melier this season. I think since Iverson's come into the team, they've been a lot better. They've been a lot more solid defensively, and that's the same with since Johnny Evans has been back as well. They've been a lot more solid defensively. But Dean Smith again, just a horror appointment. Horror appointment. The guy took Norwich down last year. I know he was kind of helpless. He would have had Aston Villa down if it wasn't for VAR. I mean, for a glitch in goal line technology, sorry. He would have had Villa down. So I don't really understand their logic or their thinking behind that. I think they would have been better off going with like an Ole, for instance. Someone who I know he's not a Manchester United manager, but I think for a team like Leicester with great attacking talent, he proved that he can get attacking. He proved he can get goals. He can instill confidence into the players. I think that would have been a better appointment. But yeah, I think they just sort of thought we'll get an old English brother, because these guys know the league. But realistically, you look at Dean Smith's career; it's not like he's a big Sam. I know Leeds got him and they didn't stay up. He's not like a Roy Hodgson. Even that probably would have been a better appointment at the time than Dean Smith. But yeah, it kind of just seems like they took the first guy that was available rather than actually thinking about it. I don't think they wanted to sack Rodgers and then they had to. Whereas if they would have done it maybe during the World Cup, like what Wolves did, and then they ended up getting Lopetegui, like Aston Villa did, and they ended up getting Emery. I think if they would have done it during the World Cup, they probably could have got a manager of that ilk in. And it's worrying signs for me when, again, you see the teams around you getting Julian Lopetegui, Unai Emery, and then you're getting Dean Smith. It's worrying, very worrying.
No, I agree. And Leicester shouldn't be in that position because they had the season where they came sixth twice. They've got valuable assets. They shouldn't be in a position where they're getting Dean Smith in to replace Rodgers. I agree. Rodgers probably should have gone. As good as a coach he is, with his credibility, sometimes you've done your dance, and he definitely done his dance with Leicester. But yeah, getting in Dean Smith, I mean, when I'm not a player, but I can imagine if I'm a player, yeah, and Rodgers is gone and Dean Smith's coming in, as opposed to if Unai Emery's coming in or Lopetegui's coming in, I know this guy, I'm getting a bit of a lift because I know this guy's done things before and he's gonna. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just fancying my chances of staying up a bit more with Dean Smith, So yeah, and what's worse about that now as well is they've got him in the Championship. And for me, that's just any manager in the Championship now. It's you try to get a manager in for short term because you didn't plan for the long term, and now your long term's just screwed. So we'll see. I mean, if Leicester can keep some of their players which are out, I think they'll be okay.
I think they will.
Yeah, probably not. They could be there for a few years, it's a shame because I've enjoyed Leicester in the Premier League.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but they gave us probably the greatest moment outside of our own teams ever in Premier League history, in probably English football history in our lifetimes. I mean, I think Luton being in the Premier League is up there, but Leicester winning the league title, that's unfathomable. It's probably never going to happen again. And now you see, 7 years later, they're relegated. Not even it's like 6 years later, they're relegated. 6 seasons later. Yeah. 6 seasons, 7 years later, they're relegated. And it's just, I don't know, man. With Leicester, I kind of see them as like how Brighton a couple of years ago they are how Brighton are now, in terms of they always sign these guys and they bring them through and they've always got someone ready. For instance, in Didi they got him from Ghent and he was brilliant for a while. Dewsbury Hall came in last year. He was obviously on loan at Luton, on loan at Blackpool before that. Came in, sort of fitted in seamlessly. And then I look at it now and I just think. I don't know where it's all gone wrong. Obviously, losing Schmeichel, your captain and probably your best ever, one of your best ever players, full stop, but definitely your best goalkeeper ever. Losing him and then playing Danny Ward in goal, it's just mismanagement. I know they had issues with FFP, but there's someone there who they could have got this better.
But
It's
was it FFP or was it just? I swear their owners just didn't have money. Like, I think I read something about their
yeah,
outlets in Thailand were like proper struggling. So it's kind of like almost like they had to start stripping the club down, and which that's why I just think it was such an awful decision to do that with your goalkeeper because yeah, like that's like I'm not sure, I can't remember where they finished last year, but they were like a steady mid-table team, and obviously they got the FA Cup 2 years ago. Yeah, I just properly sympathise for the fans because like what they got like 8 million for Schmeichel, and that's I really don't see him coming back up for a while. Like
right.
they've lost, yeah, the amount that they will get for all those players. It's just like severe financial hardship, which is what sort of happened to Luton. It's just sad to see.
Mm.
Because
I,
like all
I
the other teams around them spent like 60, 70, 80 mil. They literally did not spend a penny in the summer. And in this modern Prem, you can't just go into a season with a net spend of 8 million from selling one player and not signing any. Like,
Yeah, I think as well when I actually look at their team, I I don't know who's going to stay because when I go through it, I think they probably need a new goalkeeper anyway. Maybe Iverson for the championships, fine. Ricardo Pereira is probably on 100 grand a week. Um, James Justin's injury prone, although in the championship, if he can stay fit, that's a very decent player for the championship. Um, Suter's 15 million. He'll probably stay. Face, I don't know how much money he's on. He's probably on a lot of wages. I guess Johnny Evans will probably stay if he can stay fit. But I look at it and I think Tielemans is gone, Madison's gone, Barnes is gone, Iheanacho is probably gone. Vardy might decide that he wants to stay in the Premier League or go and venture off elsewhere, which he'd be within his rights to do, I think. Daka's probably on 100 grand a week. They've got all these guys who are on huge money. Ndidi signed a new contract a couple of years ago that was probably about 100 grand a week as well. And I just think, they're going to want to sell these guys, but with the wages they've got, they're probably not going to be able to, apart from maybe Madison and Barnes, who you can probably get 60 and 50 million for. Maybe with them going down, it's a little bit less. But I think other than that, they're going to have to just take 10, 15 million for some of these guys, man, because it's just like, I just, yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy. They're on such huge wages. I think they've got like the eighth highest wage bill in the Premier League. Will be far and wide the biggest wage bill in the Championship. And then you look at the teams going down with them. Southampton probably had the lowest wage bill in the Premier League last season, and they finished 20th, maybe rightfully so. But they've got good young players who maybe a year in a Championship will be good for them. With Leicester, they've got players in their prime who need to be playing Premier League football and will want to play Premier League football.
Yeah, 100%. I echo that. We said Vardy. I actually just thought, how weird is it going to be potentially seeing Vardy in another shirt? That's that's strange.
Get that Kenny, bring Dewsbury Hall and Justin home as well.
Yeah, it makes sense if they can afford it. I wonder how much they're on. Probably 40, 50,000, which I don't know in terms of Luton's wage bill. It's probably high end, right?
That would be probably far and wide the highest earners. But
Yeah.
if we can do a little loan deal this season, maybe split the wages in half. That gets half the wage off Leicester's bill, and we can maybe stay up and maybe make that permanent next season. You never know.
Yeah. I have, bro. Find a way somehow. I think that'd be sick, man. Bring them home. But yeah, let's talk overall thoughts on the season as it's just ended. Final day is always funny because teams just seem to not really care about defense. There was only two clean sheets today, I think. Funny enough, one of them was Brentford, who beat Man City, did the double against Man City. But we've got a few categories we're going to go through now. And we're going to start off, I'll go for personal high point of the season. And I will say, as an Arsenal fan, I think those first 2 months of the season, some of the best times as an Arsenal fan in terms of Premier League in a long while, man. And if I want to pick two games in particular, which were high points, obviously the highest point was the Reece Nelson goal. That was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I saw there in terms of having Reece Nelson, who never gets minutes, comes on left foot, banger, like to win against Bournemouth. But also with that goal, to be fair, it was actually, we're gonna look back on that low key, I think, as possibly the point where you could say Arsenal losing it a bit, because why are you 2-0 down against Bournemouth? Why are you having last minute? Nah, it's true. And Gary Neville did say it, it's like too many heroics too early, and that was true, unfortunately. But yeah, in terms of high point, the first 2 months of the season and the two games that sum it up, I'll say, is obviously the Liverpool game, 3-2, because I think that was a test for us, man. I'm quite harsh on the test we do pass. Like, for example, obviously we beat Spurs this year. I didn't really see that as a big deal because I thought Spurs were crap. I know we never beat them away, but I thought the Liverpool game was a big deal, to be fair, because Liverpool just always do us. It's kind of similar with United. They always do United. So, that first minute when Martinelli scored, I was like, we are legit, man. So obviously, we had the big game against United before we flopped. But obviously, the number one game, I think, has to be the Bournemouth away game earlier in the season. First game, third game of the season, actually, or second. 3-0. Obviously, the game is known for that Saliba chant where fans were singing the Saliba chant for about the second half. And obviously, he scored that worldie. And Arsenal were just looking unbelievable. And if we can get a form like that next season, that would be unbelievable. But then in terms of general, we've got the World Cup as well. There's been a lot in this season, man. I think it's petered out 100%, but it's been a lot, man, in terms of the teams we support and just football in general. So I'd say those are my personal favorite points of the season. Louis, you want to give yours?
Yeah, so it's far and wide yesterday, like that. I've never had that feeling ever in my life. So yesterday, but also another like amazing moment was seeing Messi lift the World Cup, with such a great performance throughout the whole tournament as well. I think, it was just amazing to watch, and it didn't feel real. That game itself was fantastic. But I would say yesterday tops probably any footballing experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, crazy, and you definitely had a fair few, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, if we're chopping it up for TikTok, just to clarify, Luton winning the playoff championship final yesterday is my moment of the year.
Yeah, that's fair. Keith, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so I'd go with that one as well, with regards to being at the game. Just something I don't expect to see again and never expected to see. But then, with regards to the sort of like Premier League and Arsenal, it was also said when that we beat Fulham, a game that I didn't even watch. But that was obviously, the sort of context of that was I was at Creamfields Festival and I had my like Arsenal London Underground shirt on. And then I was calling you guys, texting you guys for scores. And found out we scored like a late winner. And now it was just vibes, like 5 wins out of 5 at that time. Just summer. It was just crazy scenes. And that whole like first 2 months of the season, it was just vibes, pure vibes.
Unbelievable. I remember that actually, I think Louis was filling you in the scores. I was at Centre Parks actually watching that game. Life was good, man. Life was flipping good.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's do you know what? Yeah, when you deep it, it's crazy how long a season is and how many think like, bro. I remember watching Arsenal United in Vietnam, that was my second day being in Vietnam, and I remember watching that. And then when I think it was only 5-6 months ago, it feels like it was a whole lifetime ago. Like I was away for 3 months and I watched that game, and then I came home and then watched Luton lose to Watford. Like that was after I came home. And then we've now gone on and won the playoff fight. Like that seems like that stuff happened so long ago, but it's really not that long ago.
Yeah, honestly, it's not, but it feels it's about 10 months or so, to be fair. It's a long time, and with the World Cup involved as well, you're talking about 50, 60, 70 games of football worth in between that time. That's like nearly 2 seasons, so
it's like 1.5 games a week, bro.
Yeah, literally, man. It's
Just
crazy.
for one club.
Yeah,
Really?
it's
Yeah,
mad.
mad.
Right, I want to say best individual performances of the season, right? I had a few that I listed. I'm gonna just go through one. One I've got on the top of my head recently. I don't think it's the best, but the other week, Everton against Man City, Gundogan, and even the game before that, Man City against Leeds, Gundogan, he did that unreal pass to Haaland. Haaland didn't score. But of course, me and you, Lou, said it on the last pod. You did convince me about Gundogan because I thought Gundogan was a good player, but I just thought he was a good player, like a cog in the system, like a good player in a good Man City team. I didn't think he was anything. I don't say right home about, but not like just. I don't think he was KDB. I don't think he was
Yeah.
Aguero. I don't think he was anything like that. But that game against Everton there, where that was the game City were gonna bottle it possibly because they've got the Real Madrid game after. They've got Everton who are fighting for their lives and they've beaten Arsenal. They've beaten other teams because some part being hard place to go. Unbelievable. I mean, the two goals, the assist, just the whole play. Like you had a couple goal season contenders for him there. You had a great assist. Yeah, that was for me one of my favorites. But I've got quite a few to be fair. I've got another one underrated is Ollie Watkins against Newcastle um, about a month or two ago. Like this was when Ollie Watkins was like right at his peak, man. Two goals and assist against the Newcastle team, which was just like firing, man. So yeah, I'll go with those ones. Was you got any shouts for like individual like moments or performances of the season?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple. So I've got um for the World Cup, Messi against the Netherlands and against Croatia and also against France, but he wasn't as good that game as he was against Croatia and the Netherlands. I think that guy, like watching him, I was on a different like stratosphere of I was just watching it like Ross.
Yeah.
Like this guy is not a human being. And also a performance from the World Cup as well as Goncalo Ramos. Um, that hat trick from I mean I'm a football nerd and I had no idea who he was. And he came and scored a hat trick. Kind of. I think that was the final nail in the Ronaldo coffin for a lot of people, which is obviously a sad moment, a very bittersweet moment in terms of Messi winning it at the World Cup and Ronaldo kind of drifting off, ending it sad, ended up crying. Yeah, I think that's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from the World Cup and then from the actual individual season. I think someone who was surprisingly really, really good one performance was Dwight McNeil a couple of weeks ago in Brighton. I think in terms of the Premier League this season, I don't think there's been a better game from a player than that. And obviously, yeah, we can talk about the many a Haaland hat trick, but I mean that guy he just makes it look normal. So
Yeah.
you really say, to be honest.
No, that's true. I had a few hard shouts actually, to be fair, but I won't say them yet. Keen, you got any shouts about individual moments, performance of the
To be
season?
fair, yeah, when I was thinking of them, you just reminded me of a few, but yeah, like my mind was automatically just going to the Haaland ones, and yeah, like out of all of them, obviously, yeah, the Leipzig performance against Leipzig, not was it Leipzig? Oh, I can't,
Yeah, Leipzig.
not Leipzig, yeah, I keep getting the German teams mixed up.
Yeah,
Yeah, just crazy, crazy performance. Obviously, I spoke about it on here before, but
unreal.
yeah, like, I could have chose about 10 for Haaland, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
crazy season from him.
Who
Yeah, I think the Bruyne against Arsenal as well. That was a crazy performance. Not in terms of like overall game, but just the fact that he's just so devastating. I've never seen like a midfielder so potent as an attacker in terms of like decisive moments that I have him.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. Even both of them, the home game against Arsenal as well. It wasn't a great game.
Yeah,
Still got a good goal assist, and this is the thing I find striking about those ones is because Odegaard was coming into those games, yeah, bang on form. Like people saying, is he the best cam in the league this season? And then De Bruyne both times just showed him like who really is the man in town, man. So
he called him little bro basically.
yeah, man. Honestly, I don't know why KDB always decides to turn up against us. It's so long. But you know what, Haaland, I ran through a couple of his performances. I think my favorite two Haaland performances this season would be the Man United performance, because
I
I think,
didn't put it out.
yeah, I know that was obviously a peak game, but before that, there was real question marks, even from me, about Haaland's actual round ability because obviously his size and the goals he scores are quite simple goals. Well, they look simple. Obviously, they're not simple, or else everyone would do them. But that game there, like he was doing everything, man. Goals, assists, movement. That assist to Foden for the fourth goal, unbelievable, man. I know Foden got a hat trick that day as well. I think Haaland was, for me, clear man of the match. And also Haaland against Arsenal the other day, man. Proper centre forward performance, man. Yeah, fair enough. Holding gave him a bit of a easy time with it, but like his hold up play in that game, and even then that little bit where he did a croqueta between Holding and Zinchenko, got a shot on goal, like that. Before, like I'm honestly, as someone watching a opposition team, yeah, like I'd say Messi, like when he's come Arsenal, I've been like every time he's got the ball, I'm like, oh, this is long. But Haaland that game as well, I was like, this is long. Every time he's near a goal, bro, he's doing something. He's even doing little dribbles, man. So yeah, I would go with those. Any more, or should I move on to like another category?
There's probably more,
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll go to another category because I can't think off the top of my head right now.
yeah, nah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, we'll go for something or a player you've gained appreciation for this season. And I'll go for another Man City player and say John Stones. And in thinking of the performances as well, I think the main one which came to mind was his one against Liverpool is that a couple months ago now? It's probably a month and a bit ago, where it's like I feel like that was his first big game where I don't know, he's trusting the centre mid role and bro, he's flawless, man. Like he was just I don't know how Pep's tuned that out of him. I know he's played CDM before at Everton, but like yeah, just unreal, man. So I've grown a lot of appreciation for him. And I don't say appreciation before, but again, another one I was kind of wrong on was Unai Emery when he came into Villa. For Villa, got him in. I thought, don't get him in. He's been in England before. It doesn't work for him here, and he's been one of the managers of the season, man. So I would go with those things in terms of things I've gained appreciation for this season. Where's any shouts? That one. It's a bit of a niche.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Emery one.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think Haaland because like obviously I knew this guy was a freak in terms of goal scoring and stuff like that, and the numbers he puts up are like tremendous even at Dortmund. But for me, I was kind of like, you know, with players like Messi and with players like you know, we've seen in England Henry, we've seen Ronaldo, we've seen guys like this who like their all round game, not just goal scoring, their all round game is like incredible. And they influence games even when they're not scoring. And I think Haaland this year, you know, it's kind of made me look at football a little bit differently. And it's like, if you're doing the main thing in football, which is scoring goals, why do you actually need to influence the game? You don't need to influence. You're influencing the game by scoring a goal. If you score one goal every game, who cares if you're not going on a dribble? You know, you need to just score a goal. Like, and I guess that's the argument sort of fans of Ronaldo said for the past like 4 or 5 years in terms of, you know, he's still scoring goals, so why does it matter? But the thing with Haaland was, and maybe it's just because Pep's a complete genius, but City have kind of evolved in terms of everyone else controls the game, and his sole job is to score the goals. But his overall play has been amazing. But another player, Lisandro Martinez. Again, he's made me look at the way I view centre backs now. I used to think you can't be a good centre back if you're not above at least 5'11", 5'10". But you know, this guy's 5'7", and I just think he's so intelligent and he's such an excellent footballer that, you know, it's made me sort of view if you've got enough other big guys in the team in terms of in midfield, you know, with Casemiro and etc., you don't really need him to be physically dominant. Your centre back. It's a very Dutch Spanish way of thinking. You know, they're the first people who start the attacks, so they need to be good with their feet, and that's the primary thing basically. And as long as they can win duels, it doesn't matter about their height. And yeah, that kind of made me see how I view football differently.
Yeah, No, I'm with that as well. Sandro Martinez. Yeah, the reason we were both strongly linked with him, I knew there was somewhat a baller there, but I just thought obviously the height and obviously the media portrayal of him with Jamie Carragher saying he's too small to play in the league. I thought it might be tough for him, but yeah, nah, he's one like, he's such a unique centre back, man. I've never really seen a centre back like him personally, so I rate him highly, man, and I don't rate many United players often, so I rate him highly, man. He's signs like him, I think, are quality. So yeah. Go
And
with go
so
on, man.
yeah, another more sort of bait one that's just come to my head, but yeah, now just Brighton and Brentford's recruitment, like
Mm.
it honestly just when sort of like going into the transfer window with like Arsenal, it makes me think like, do we actually need to like spend money? Because the fact that like they've not really spent above like 10 million on anyone, like it's like there's some mad formula that they know of to just like yeah, sort of analyze the guy's physical attributes and then just literally almost like sort of scouting a guy that's playing rugby and just teaching him how to play football, and then he just turns into like a crazy football player because yeah, the way they're just obviously this is like the third year in a row they've just been sort of churning out this talent now, and it's yeah, it's mad that it's all come for like some teams like Southampton and stuff like that had generations and then they've sort of sold it all and then not replaced it. But it's like they must kind of love it when they get a bid for one of their players because they know they'll sell him for like 60, 70 mil and they'll just replace him for next to nothing. And yeah, like the guys at Brighton especially, yeah, they're doing their recruitment's insane. Like yeah, they'll be in Europe, will be good for them.
Yeah, and even the fact they got De Zerbi when it looked like Potter was obviously I rated Potter a lot at Brighton. I thought maybe him going was just tough for them, but they didn't worry. They got De Zerbi and then they haven't looked back at Potter. So yeah, and Brentford as well. Shout out to them, man. Top 10 finish for them. I mean, talking about teams who've gone up and it being surprising when Brentford went up, it was like, wow, Brentford in the Prem, They were similar to Luton in the sense of they had a ground as well that wasn't fit for standards, possibly.
They had theirs built. Luckily, that's up.
Yeah,
Literally, their promotion came at like the perfect time for them because they had the stadium built, ready to go.
yeah,
I mean, if it was a year before, they'd have had to play at Griffin Park, which again, another like. I'm so fortunate I got to go there. And I know we got battered, Luton. We lost 7-0, but so like it's a double terrace, so it's a double like top and bottom. You can stand. There's no seats. It's like a proper old school ground. The atmosphere was mad. So yeah, I'm so fortunate I got to go there. Even though yeah, we got smashed, but yeah, man, like even their new stadium now is unique in the way it's built. Yeah, they're an example for all small clubs like Luton, like for instance your Millwalls and stuff like that, who have aspirations of going to the Premier League. That's the way to do it, man. Sometimes you've got to moneyball your way and have a great scouting and recruitment department, and then if you need to sell high and buy low.
yeah. No, I agree with that as well, man. Brentford, shout out them, shout out Brighton. Top 10 finishes for them and Europe for Brighton. Top seasons, man. Right, we'll go with personal low moments from the season. This can be anything, to be fair. One I'll throw out there. I don't really find it a low moment, but obviously a notable moment. You could say it's a low moment, actually. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's one thing which is crazy because that was this season as well. I remember when we did the interview, and obviously me, you, Louie, we did the pod the day after with Dutch and Ralph, kind of
Oh
talking
yeah,
about.
it's fully the day after, wasn't it?
Yeah, man, it was crazy. But you could say it's a low moment in the sense of like it's sad to see a goat of the game move like that, like doing an interview with Piers Morgan, kind of being a puppet for Piers Morgan. Um, say these things like the club wouldn't let me leave. Really trying to put the club's name in the mud, and then you end up at Al Nassr and you don't even win the league in Saudi. So like say that's a bit of a low moment. But for me, obviously, low moment would be the last couple months with Arsenal. I say April. And I say obviously the point it turned. I think the point I lost faith was Anfield in terms of the second half. because I thought a team of champions doesn't hang on like that. But I think the lowest moment was it's really weird. I would actually say, I don't know, man. I kind of say the Forest or the Brighton games. Weirdly enough, like I just thought the way we ran out of steam in both of those games was really flat to see. I wanted us to push City to the end, and we didn't. Obviously, the West Ham and Southampton games were poor as well. I mean, the Southampton game, it came back to 3-3. I was like, why have we done this, man? You just got my hopes up in the last 10 minutes. We had 10 minutes injury time. We didn't score a goal. So I'd say those moments. Keelan, what do you reckon? Low points in general with the season?
Yeah, so I think like with who you touched on, I did think like I felt so yeah, with regards to like Arsenal, I think like yeah, it hit me most after that Southampton game. I think more like particularly like when we're 2-0 down, like the fashion of it at the Emirates, 2-0 down in about 10 minutes. Or like 2-0 down quite early. It was just really like obviously we eventually came back to get a draw, but it was just being Southampton as well, it was kind of like foreseen and it was just yeah, no, it was tough. And then yeah, with like Ronaldo, like I didn't obviously yeah, when he got released, I was like I thought it could actually sort of lead to like better things. But I think it was yeah, over the weekend seeing that he's actually gone Saudi and he's not won the league. His team were like 5 points clear when they had Abubakar, and yeah, he's actually bottled the league for him. And like, yeah, that rivalry between him and Messi's ended sadly because yeah, like, I literally got Ronaldo on the back of his shirt. He was such a role model at one point, and him and Messi was a serious rivalry, and he's just yeah, Messi's eventually like won the rivalry, but he's not kept respect for himself. It's just ended so sadly, and I think his legacy is gonna get hit a lot by it. Like yeah, people still want to talk about him, but like his whole brand and identity, I think he's wrecked it in the past year, and yeah, like yeah, definitely just a pit to be like not winning that league in Saudi. Like how you actually bottled your teams the league in Saudi, and then you obviously including like all things, yeah, the sort of World Cup, England lose the semi-final, well, yeah, particularly like yeah, Kane missing that pen. Yeah, that was a tough one to go through.
Bro, you brought that back for me, bro. I was finally
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah, that was.
Even think about that. I've obliterated that from my mind, and now you've just brought all the sadness back, man.
That feels like ages ago, man.
It does. I mean, yeah, it was like 6 months ago.
Yeah, December. Obviously, because there's so much happened after with the Argentina games as well. I think that makes it feel even further away than it was as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lee, what's your personal low points this season?
I've got three. So the Kane penalty, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I was normally when things like that happen, I feel really numb, but I was really angry that day, like really, really, really angry, and I was kind of like, I kind of hated Kane for a bit, man,
Yeah,
and I still kind of do a little bit.
yeah,
I still hate like he's an amazing footballer, but I kind of just hate him, man. I'm just like, just what are you doing?
yeah.
Like if it was for instance like a Saka or a Sancho or a Rashford, and you can think, okay, they're young players. I mean, they've all got experience within their own right, but they're young players they've missed. With Kane, it's like you're 29 years old. This is your time now. If that's Lewandowski or that's like we've seen Messi, Messi stepped up for 4 pens plus 2 in shootouts. He scored every single one. I think Ronaldo in that situation bangs it as well. Even now, I think Ronaldo bangs that penalty. So you're like the best bang those penalties, man. So that yeah, I was angry. I still kind of am. And then yeah, I mean, one for Luton, one for United. For United, obviously the 7-0 was like that was crazy because United were probably first half the better team until the first goal went in. And then even going into the game, they were the much better side on paper. Had just had some great results and then went and lost 7-0 to Liverpool, which is crazy. But for Luton, the 4-0 to Watford, that was really, really painful because we'd waited so long for that game to be with fans. You know, we'd waited 15 years for that game to be with fans, like, I think 16, 17 years actually. And yeah, I mean, there was a virus that went around before and we had a couple of players out and a couple of players weren't well. But, you know, losing 4-0 and sort of just went out on a whimper. If you would have told me at that point that we were going to get to the Premier League, I would have probably told you that you're fucking crazy. And then yeah, it just goes to prove that pain is a temporary thing. It's not something that lasts forever. And that's why we all love football, man, because it's a synonym for life itself. There's things, and people say it's just a game. It's not just a game. It does things that teach you lessons, and you kind of learn about yourself on a professional and on a personal level every day, just from tapping into games every week, and the roller coaster of one season. And when you actually think about one season, in 3 seasons' time, if Luton are back in League One, I'm gonna be like, that Premier League season was great. It's great memories, but we're in League One. So like even season to season, it can change so quickly, and that just proves again in life, year on year, everything can change so quickly. 1 minute you can be a millionaire, next you can be homeless, and then next year after that you can be a millionaire again. Like it's just, it's a synonym for life, and yeah, man. I think this year, especially this season, I think I've learned a lot about myself from football, which is a crazy thing to say, but just seeing Messi win the World Cup sort of made me realise the dream's never over. Luton getting to the Premier League made me realise that no matter how impossible the dream is, you can achieve it. And then, yeah, that's what I've got to say, really.
Nah, that's actually a good point you touched on, man. And me and Keelan have a little running banter. I've had it for years where we talk. We we talk about life in football scenarios all the time. But like, it's true, man. There's so much from football which is like you can apply. I don't know. The thing that impresses me the most, genuinely, is probably Pep Guardiola, man. Like his ability to adapt. Any time when he's like, I don't want to say down and out. I've never seen Pep down and out, but when it's looking doubtful, man, there's always this aura about him where you feel like he's in control of the situation. You never quite felt this season that we were, not that we weren't going to win the league. I thought we were at one point, but I had a slight feeling City would slip, but they never fully slipped to a third or fourth. I've seen teams like Liverpool, they slipped to third, fourth, or fifth. But Pep, man, he's such an underrated winner, man. He's such a, for me, like people talk about win at all cost managers, yeah. And they think about Mourinho first. I think there's no more win at all cost manager than Pep, man. Like
Told you this last pod. I said this, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, to be fair, you did, man. It's like, because it's not always back to the wall football, you don't think it's win at all costs, bro. It's win at all costs, but it's also win where we're gonna keep winning at all costs, which I find so impressive. And I don't know, if I could be a Pep Guardiola in life, bro, I'll be unreal. Like,
yeah,
I think the thing,
agree.
Yeah, the thing I find impressive the most about him, and what I like to apply to life maybe, is the way Pep Guardiola, he makes it boring, man. I think once you make winning boring, that's when you're a goat, man. Because sometimes you get wins in life, it's like you settle, you slack. Like the best, like Messi, Ronaldo, Pep, right? Win and win and win and win and win, no matter what. 1 point, they beat Liverpool by 1 point, they still won it, And to be fair, when I watched the game against Real Madrid, whilst like for a bit I kind of started to dislike City because obviously they took over us in the league. I was happy for Pep, man, that he's got that moment over Real Madrid, because last year he kind of got screwed out of it. His team should have won that game. So in a weird one, we'll segue on to the next point. I hope City do probably go on and win the champs, man. To be fair, just for his legacy, man, because I think he deserves to be reckoned. Like I don't want people saying in years' time like that, this guy couldn't win it without Messi. This guy went to all the best teams and won it. Nah, man. Like I think in this manager thing, he's so clear. Right, that segues on nicely to the next point. Now the only thing left this season, well, we've got, you've got the League One playoffs as well, and you've probably got other things to play for as well. But in terms of what all eyes are going to be on, is the Champions League finals, the FA Cup final, start of next week, the FA Cup final, massive FA Cup final, and I'm glad it is, because it's been. We've had a few years of where the FA Cup's not really meant as much as it should mean, but I feel like this one means a lot. Man City against Man United, and you've got next week, the week after that, you've got the Champions League final, Man City against Inter. Are Man City going to close out the deal then? are Man City gonna go on and win the treble and do what people thought couldn't be done? People thought only United could do this in the modern era. Keelan, I'll come to you. Do you think Man City are gonna close out the deal?
Um, I'll say like 60% yes, 40% no.
Ooh, not
In
confident.
which I'd say I'm very confident they're going to do the double with the Champions League, because I'm not backing Inter too much in that. But I do think Man U will give them a really good game in the final. And I think that FA Cup might be the bit of a banana skin, especially Man U playing to defend their own treble. And I think Ten Hag he's been good in these cups. They've had when they've not had injuries, Man U have been a tricky team, and I think like we're talking about sort of Pep tactically and sort of the changes he makes. I do think Ten Hag is the type to sort of adapt directly to those tactics, and I think Man U they've just got tricky like players like Anthony, Bruno, just guys that will just kind of can shit house the final, and obviously Man U beat him at Old Trafford as well. So I think they could do it, and I'd say it's that FA Cup which would be more of a concern. I think if I'm Pep, I think I don't think he's like too bothered about the treble. I think he's more just wants that Champions League. Obviously, yeah, he has to go for the treble, but I think his Champions League's a lot safer than the treble in that sense.
Crazy, crazy. The one competition he needs to win is safer than, yeah, crazy. Louie, what do you reckon then?
Sorry, I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It wasn't. I took it off a second ago. Yeah, I think
Percentage-wise, like how much do you think?
I think I'm 60% confident they will do it and 40% confident they won't. I think you know what? I think both games are tough, man. I know I said Inter aren't very good. However, I said that a couple of weeks ago. However, they do have a team that's built for knockout competitions. They proved that the other day in the Coppa Italia final, and they have a great in terms of the defensive structure and the ability to hit teams on the counter attack with the likes of Lukaku, with the likes of Lautaro Martinez. They've got players who can score goals from nothing as well, like those two I mentioned, like Çalhanoğlu, like Barella. They have these guys who can do bits of magic like that. And you can never write out Italian teams in the Champions League. I know it's been a while since they've won one, but it's the same as Italy in tournaments. Once they get to the semi-final and the final, it's very hard to rule them out. And I think Inter Milan, City obviously the much better team on paper. But I just think they go into it as a team who's underdogs, and they need to play like underdogs because no one's going to care if they go and have 10-15% possession. No one cares as long as you win the game. And they're probably just thinking, let's not get embarrassed, but we can nick this if we're resolute. So I think that's a banana skin. I think obviously the one I'm more confident they'll win that than win the Premier League. No, the FA Cup. Sorry, I think United they have it in them. It just depends what City turn up and what United turn up. Because if the United turn up that we've seen against Barcelona and that we've seen against even both games at Arsenal, I know United weren't great in either game, but they proved that they can score goals and they can defend. Then yeah, maybe. But I am still more confident of City doing the treble than not. Even though I do think sometimes, people say records are there to be broken, but it's like sometimes, even with Arsenal's Invincibles, it feels like a team's going to go invincible. It doesn't happen. It feels like a team's going to do the treble. It doesn't happen. Obviously, Liverpool last year, teams have done it before in the past, and it just never normally happens, even though teams come very close. And I feel like that could still happen. Sometimes records aren't meant to be broken. But yeah, man, I would be surprised if they don't win both.
Yeah, no, I would be as well. They're definitely favourites for both. But yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, of course, we're naturally going to say Man United are more likely to beat them than Inter Milan because we watch Man United more. But obviously, the last game they played, both near full strength teams, by the way. I know City weren't in their full flow, but Man United won, man. Man United won that game 2-1. Different, obviously, from the 6-3 game. So yeah, man, that final is going to be it's gonna be interesting. If City are on it, City I think smash United and smash Inter. You know, if they're really on it. But maybe there's a thing where City last couple of weeks they've changed the squad a bit. I know it's a rest thing, but I've seen it before where teams rest players for a bit, and then they come for this big game, the Champions League final, the FA Cup final. They bring their main 11 back. It doesn't quite click. It's a different pitch, Wembley, and wherever the Champions League final is held, Istanbul. So yeah, but if I was to give percentage wise, I don't know. I think this year the City team looks focused, man. I think Inter Milan, like they're coming on okay form. United ain't coming on greatest form today. They just got over against Fulham, and they've just made top four. I think Rashford's going to be key for them. No Rashford, no party for United. I'll say 75%. Nah, I'm 80% sure City are going to do it. I think this it's Haaland there as well. Debut season, the perfect debut season, Ballon d'Or winning season. I think that's what's going to happen, man. But yeah, man, that's been it then, guys. I think we've touched on a lot, man, a lot. We've reviewed the season quite well. We've talked about obviously playoffs. We never really do that, but of course, as you can tell, obviously we're all from Luton, so we had to, like, you know, it would be wrong if we didn't talk about it. And also, guys, it's first season done of Streets Won't Forget. So you know that's a massive achievement in itself. 22 episodes. I think it's the 22nd episodes. I think it's a stat that 80% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20. So we're better than 80% of podcasts apparently.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow, that's it, bro. I needed that motivation, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No, that's all right, man. Yeah, loads of bigger and better things to come over the summer as well. We're gonna be dropping like more little fantasy like drafts, more just have a bit of fun with it, basically. Obviously, now the season's done, we can be a little bit less serious with it. But yeah, anything you guys want to mention, or we should close out?
Nah, it's just like I said earlier, football is a synonym for life, and you know, one's over and we're on to the next. So, you know, I'll see you boys in the preseason, and yeah, we move.
We move, man. We move. Keelan, anything you want to mention, or you cool?
Yeah, no, just nothing. In particular to say. But yeah, no, like people saying like football's getting more boring and whatnot, and I guess there's sort of true to some extent. But then I think a lot of the things we spoke about today, like you sort of said that was going to happen at the start of the season, some guy would have thought you were like, yeah, off your head. So like, it does still have those exciting moments, and I think football always continues to bring those exciting moments to people. Like, it's easy to get caught up in it while it's happening, but then you actually think, like, you look back throughout the years, and things are just changing constantly. Like,
yeah, literally, it's mad, and it can bring it to anyone, man, any sort of team. I mean, I just thought this now. Random, obviously, last year. I'm not gonna spend too long on it, but this time last year as well, I was in Bristol when Bristol Rovers had that unbelievable game where they won 7-0. I went in the celebrations. Well, I went in the celebrations for that as well. So that was unbelievable. So yeah, any sort of team, man. League One, Championship, Prem, Wrexham. You've got all sorts of stories around football. You don't necessarily have to be Messi win the World Cup. You know, it can be, any sort of team can have their joy in football. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming on. If you've been listening to this episode, please give it a like. Please give us a subscribe on all platforms. And until next time, we're out. Streets Won't Forget podcast, man. Take care. Nice one.